The Matamoros human sacrifice cult wasn't just a cartel offshoot. It was a nightmare come to life. A cult drenched in blood, where faith and fear intertwined with drug trafficking, where human life was nothing more than currency for supernatural power. Adolfo de Jesus Constanzo wasn't a common criminal. He wasn't just another cartel kingpin. He saw himself as something greater, a dark messiah, a priest of death. Born in 1962 in Miami, Constanzo grew up surrounded by the rituals of Santeria and Palomayombe, religions that venerated spirits and required sacrifices. But Constanzo twisted them into something monstrous. He didn't just want offerings of chickens or goats. He wanted something more potent: human blood, human pain, human death. By the 1980s, he had made a name for himself as a powerful brujo, a sorcerer who could grant protection, wealth, and even invincibility. Drug traffickers, corrupt police officers, and cartel enforcers flocked to him. They believed in his rituals, in his nganga, a sacred cauldron filled with bones, blood, and body parts, said to house spirits that granted power. And what was the ultimate tribute to the gods? Human sacrifice. Constanzo's influence spread like wildfire. He moved to Mexico City, where he seduced wealthy businessmen, politicians, and cartel leaders with promises of supernatural protection. He conducted ceremonies that involved animal sacrifices at first, but soon, his thirst for power demanded more. Human sacrifices became the core of his belief system. He claimed that his rituals made his followers bulletproof and invisible to law enforcement. This illusion of power made him indispensable to the drug world, cementing his place in one of the most violent and lucrative trades in Mexico. On the US-Mexico border, violence was nothing new. Matamoros was already a battleground for drug cartels. But this was different. This was something more sinister. People were disappearing. Young men, unlucky travelers, cartel rivals, and no one knew where they were going. Then came March 14, 1989. A 21-year-old college student, Mark Kilroy, was celebrating spring break with his friends in Matamoros. One moment, he was bar hopping, laughing, enjoying the night. The next, he was gone. Kilroy was snatched off the street by Constanzo's men. They brought him to the ranch, a sprawling, desolate property that served as the cult's slaughterhouse. For hours, maybe even days, Kilroy was tortured, his bones shattered, his skin peeled, his screams lost in the darkness of the desert. Then, the killing blow, his skull split open with a machete, his brain scooped out and placed in the nganga as an offering. His body, like the others before him, was hacked apart and buried in a shallow grave. Authorities later discovered that Kilroy's murder was part of a larger pattern. The cult had been killing for years. Investigators found 15 bodies buried at the Santa Elena Ranch, each with evidence of grotesque mutilations. Victims had missing hearts, missing ears, missing fingers, each body part taken as a sacred offering to the spirits Constanzo worshipped. Some corpses showed signs of prolonged torture, indicating that the victims had suffered for days before being executed. And Kilroy wasn't alone. There were others, many others. Bodies missing hearts, missing spines, missing eyes. Each sacrifice was meant to make Constanzo and his followers untouchable, invincible. But their bloodlust was their downfall. A routine police stop led investigators to one of Constanzo's followers. When they traced him back to the ranch, they found hell on earth, graves filled with dismembered bodies, bones stripped clean, a cauldron of rotting flesh and blood. The smell of death hung thick in the air. The ranch itself was a chamber of horrors. Police found tools of torture, machetes, whips, and chains used to restrain victims. The nganga was filled with human remains, evidence of the dark magic rituals that Constanzo had built his power upon. Blood-stained walls spoke of the violence that had taken place there. Constanzo, knowing his reign was over, fled to Mexico City with his inner circle. But he couldn't stay hidden for long. As police closed in, he refused to be taken alive. Instead, he handed a machine gun to one of his followers and ordered his own execution. The cult was dismantled. His accomplices, including his high priestess Sarah Aldrete, were arrested and sentenced. Aldrete, once a college student with aspirations of being a teacher, had become a willing participant in the killings. She claimed to be brainwashed, but authorities saw her as just as guilty as the rest. Her transformation from scholar to cult leader was one of the most chilling aspects of the case. Even after the cult's downfall, whispers of Los Narcosatanicos, the narco-Satanists, linger in the shadows. Some say similar cults still exist, buried deep in the cartel underworld. That human sacrifice still fuels the drug trade, that the spirits of the Nganga still thirst for blood, that in the darkest corners of Mexico's borderlands the rituals never truly stopped. The case of the Matamoros cult revealed the extent to which fear and superstition could be weaponized. It exposed the brutal intersection of organized crime and occultism. It was proof that sometimes the most horrifying evil isn't supernatural, it's human. Because death in the right hands is the ultimate currency.